What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jesus Conde and today we're going to be making this image. This is mostly done in 3D. It started by being a VR model on Gravity Sketch, then sent to 3ds Max to do the renders with Octane, and finally composed on Photoshop. This is a video process of creating this image, which is kind of for production, mostly for keyframe kind of concept. It's not like for anything specific more than just the idea of a shot or the idea of a scene. So as you can see, I started doing the sketch on Gravity Sketch on VR. It looks really, it looks like it's trembling a lot, but trust me, when you're using it yourself, it doesn't look like this at all. And also, it kind of looks like that because it's speed up, but most of the time it looks pretty good. It's very soft, and because you're using the VR headset, it doesn't actually look like this, like everything is trembling all the time or anything. And you actually, the range of vision is way more than you can see right now. You can basically look, if it was you, imagine that you were using it, and if it was you could look at your own feet, although you can't because you're in a virtual space. But this is that's the range of vision that you have. Almost you can see to the bottom and to the top in like very easily. It's not like this, or you're just looking at a square. I added a character just to know kind of the size of the robot, and now I'm placing some assets that I imported, that I bought like long time ago. Most of the stuff that I do that has to be quick is done this way, but it's many of like the times that I've done this is basically just for making it fast. Usually on professional work, I try to paint more than using 3D, because most of the ideas that I get out of the 3D, it has to be stuff that is very general, like it's not that specific. Like most of the ideas that I do when I do 3D stuff, it has to be kind of like a something that I can then use as a base to paint on top, because I'm not getting, like when I'm working professionally, I'm not getting paid to just use other people's stuff like assets and stuff like that. They're basically paying me to give ideas that come from my mind, not from other people's 3D models. So that's the reason why I really like also to paint a lot, because it can be more mine from my input. Recently I had a situation where I did a render, and it was supposed to be like a first stage of the render, and obviously my art director immediately told me that it doesn't look like it fits the universe that we're creating. So obviously, like I immediately knew why, like the shapes doesn't really fit on what is needed, right? So I'm gonna have to paint that on top a lot. And in this case, because this image is just to create this video, to show you the process of making these renders really fast, I'm not going to do too much overpaint. It's basically what you see is what you get kind of a thing, but it's mostly to show the ideas of a shot. So the main important thing on this shot was this mech that I needed, so that's why it's taking most of the time creating it. And then the next step will be to import it on 3ds Max, where I'm going to compose the idea very quickly. So what I had in my mind was I want to have a mech that is about to enter a portal. So in my mind, or the way that I think of it is, what's the minimal expression of the idea, and in this case will be the mech standing in front of a cylinder, kind of a door, right? And then you will see like a light coming out of it. That it's basically it. That's the image. on the most basic idea. Now, the way that I place the camera and all that, that will be like the second most important thing. And then it will be the lighting. The lighting is also very important because it's going to allow me hide a lot of stuff and at the same time make it look very clear what the idea of the image is. If I place the lighting incorrectly, it will be like basically wasting how do I say that? It will be like guiding the audience to something that they don't really should be focusing in. So it's really important to find this at the early stages. In this case, making the portal being the main source of light was very important to me on this particular scene. So obviously right now it doesn't look too interesting. The background has some flat color and I need to put something there, so just to keep things going. I'm trying to be as creative as possible directly on 3D. In this case, I don't always recommend that. Sometimes you do have to make some sketches and stuff first on paper or whatever you want, but you do have to do some sketches first sometimes to advance quickly. But yeah, you can, if you are pretty good at 3D, you can go for it and try to make really like huge steps on 3D already without having to go back to a sketchboard on and on. So I imported these assets, which for some reason took me a lot of time to find. As you can see, even though the video is speed up, and now I'm going to place them. These assets are from Vitaly Bulgarov. He's a really good 3D modeler. Most people working on the industry know him. I don't really know anybody that doesn't know him. He's really famous for his 3D models and assets. The problem that I have with using assets a lot is that, again, those are models that somebody else made. They are not your ideas. So the only way that I can think of for using them is this. You just want to show an idea for a shot. But in terms of design, you can only get so much on that. Like you can only get too far with using 3D models that somebody else made. If you wanted to create like a alien world with different, like with houses or whatever, buildings that doesn't exist, obviously you cannot just use assets like, hey, let's see what alien houses exist on TurboScript or whatever other page. That will be a mistake because they're hiring you to figure out what the hell this is going to look like, not to use other people's 3D models, right? But if you are in the early stages where you want to just show quick ideas, they ask you to show quick ideas of how a scene could be, like the scene is most important than the design aspect of it, you can clearly, like really easy, just do this kind of workflow. If I was asked to do a design of a mech, I could probably do this same thing, but then I will have to reshape things and paint on top a lot just to make it look like it's something else, you know, adding panels or morphing it or changing things. And you do have to know a lot about lighting in that case, and a lot of material indication with your painting, just to kind of show what the ideas could be. A lot of the times in my job, I like to paint a lot because it's a faster workflow in most of the tasks. The only moments that I use a lot of 3D or photo bash is on environment designs, and also when I have to do architecture, because architecture is so precise that it really needs to be precise, and you do need a tool like this, like use 3ds Max or whatever 3D software that you're using to develop those kinds of things. And one of the things that I like about 3D, as you can see right now, I created this piece, and now I'm going to be able to duplicate it and also rotate it without any problem and duplicate it as many times as I want, and it's gonna be no problem. If you were doing this on 2D painting, it will be so much painful to just do this and then think of, hey, I don't like how it looks, let's change it. That will be so much painful. But right now, as you can see, I just copy this piece a lot and rotate it, duplicate it and rotate it, and that's it. It's done. And also, I'm noticing that I should even duplicate that again and make it farther back too. Like maybe copy it and move it to the back, and why not make a mirror effect on it so it's backwards. And also scaled. It's a scale to the back. So now I have a far more complex thing going on, and it took me just minutes to do, right? That's the power of 3D. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I think is really cool when you're working on these kinds of stuff. If you are more of a character designer, I will say 3D only in few moments I have used it, where you have to do like a very tight suit, or have to come up with creative ways to make a spacesuit kind of a thing, mostly for sci-fi stuff. I haven't done too much of that actually, but I've done it to teach people, like other YouTube videos or like a class. Some time ago, I had to show like a quick workflow on well, actually I have used it on my current job. Once I have to do some armor designs for a game called Atlas, and I was really short on ideas. And this wasn't like a medieval armor or anything. It was more like a different kind of vibe, more like an Aquaman kind of thing. And yeah, I used like a texture, and then the 3D gave me like different versions using the same texture, and then when I overpainted, it was so much easy to see ideas. Like some people use the 3D like that. There is a really good video from Scott Robertson called Sources of Inspiration, that he uses 3D to get ideas from, not to do the final thing. He could just, like grab a shape and put a texture with holes on it and stuff like that with opacity, and from that come up with the design of a ship. It's not like he's going to model the whole thing. He prefers to do it this way, although lately he has done some stuff like that. Anyway, I'm talking too much about other stuff instead of this one. And right now, as you can see, I have my lighting coming out of the portal, and now I'm testing different contrasts of camera presets that give me some cool color and cool contrast according to my light, that now has some kind of a haze effect that really brings some atmosphere to the scene. But I need more lighting. I need some lights on the ceiling that help me separate the mech from the background, and also that will give me, although at the moment I didn't think of it, but that will give me some cool reflections on the mech itself and other surfaces. But yeah, also the ability of clone lights, which is something that is actually new on Octane, plugin from 3ds Max. Before you couldn't do that, but right now, as you can see, just creating that light there, it helps separate the mech from the background a lot, and that's really helpful. What else? Yeah, right at this point I already see the image coming out. Like I can see clearly the idea more, like way better than before. And for the portal effect, I was using just a cylinder that is like I erased the top of it and made some kind of a curved cylinder, kind of like opening. And when I applied a texture that I had, This texture is rare because it's kind of like bubbles or some kind, and it's also was shot at night. I use a lot of texture from the people on photobash.org, and they had this package of images taken on dark lighting and a lot of neon lights and stuff like that. So I grabbed this photo and applied it, and it immediately looked like a wormhole kind of effect, right? Which was really cool. That immediately gave me the Portal vibes, and also because of the way it was constructed, the thing looked like pushed, kind of like kind of like it was like pushing, or how you say that, stretching. And that was really cool. It immediately made it look like one of those scenes from Interstellar, if you ask me, like all that crazy thing going on there being pulled or stretched, some kind of a matter kind of thing. Now I'm trying to apply other materials to the scene because I'm getting to the point where I'm happy with what I got right there. So it's just a matter of like adding some materials to the scene that can help make everything look more detailed. Not too much, because like then you start to get into the more time in the image, but is it actually necessary to spend more time on it, you know? So that kind of thing is always a debate that you gotta have with yourself when working on this. Like, what do you need to make this image look better, and if you actually need it. Like adding these lights under this, some people could have just painted that, but I really do wanna control as much as I can here on the 3D. So I just, and because I can, because it's 3D gives you a lot of freedom, I just had to put the lights there and duplicate it, and whatever change I did to one, it was going to make to the other one. Super easy, no big deal. And yeah, that's one of the advantages too. You can actually do stuff and repeat other things, and yeah, you can have those flash effects or like lens flares also added by the render. You don't have to put them yourself by hand. Something you have to be always thinking of is the render time. And at the beginning you can just use like really tiny resolutions, but once you get farther, you wanna try to see things at the render size that they're going to be at the end. That way you can spot some mistakes or stuff that you don't want to be seen, or things that you think it can look better or whatever, you know. But at this point it's pretty much done. What I'm missing right now are some characters. Maybe I wanted to add some characters that I had. I don't want to do anything too complicated because I just can't in terms of time. This is just an experiment that I was trying to do to show you a really quick workflow, quote unquote quick, 4 hours tops to make an image, and try to make it try to make something that look cool. Sorry for the pauses. I know the video has some pauses somewhere, and that could be stressing for some people. But yeah. Those images that I use for the portal and stuff like that, you can find those on photobash.org. They are not my sponsors or anything at all, and none of these brands. But yeah, I recommend them because they are really good with the service that they provide. They just put tons and tons of photos that you can use for work and photobash and stuff. Really good. Right now I'm trying those presets again to see what happens. I'm currently using 3080, or was it 70? Yeah, I think it was a 3070 NVIDIA or the RTX, and it's behaving really well actually. It has been amazing to work with it. Let me check that up real quick. If I can at all, to know what the graphic card is. But anyway, yeah, I think it's at 3070. I don't remember actually, but yeah, I remember that the 3080 was really expensive and I couldn't afford it. But if it's behaving really well in Octane render, it renders pretty well. Right now, as you can see, I added these guys, which I had to at some point decimate them, like change the quantity of polygons that they have, because they were really heavy, like millions of polygons. I wasn't sure why they needed to be so heavy, but yeah, at some point I did have to change the quantity of polygons that they had. It was way too much. And honestly, when you render in Octane, at the beginning everything is super fast, but then when you start adding tons and tons of geometry, you start to see like where some of the limitations are. And for example, this one, it had to render for like 20 minutes to look okay, to look good at a 4K, well, actually bigger than 4K resolution, which is important because you don't want to do all this work and then render a 1080 image. It will be like a waste of time, if you ask me. You want to be able to render things that look super detailed. If you want to change the detail quality later on Photoshop, painting and stuff, that's okay. But you don't want to go through all this process to then have like a really bad looking image. You wanna have it the best that you can, right? So I recommend you to get images as sharp as possible and as detailed as possible with the less grain as possible. So if you gotta leave something rendering for 1 hour to achieve that, do it, I will say, because yeah, man, this is a lot of work for then having like a really crappy image just because you don't have time to render. So you better just leave it there, and maybe you can do, depending on what computer you have, you can do other stuff at the same time. Right now I was missing a little bit of detail on the background, not that you see it too much, but yeah, you can kind of see like everything on the background was just empty completely. So I wanted to change that. And this is almost finishing. I'm almost there with this image. You can see the silhouette of the robot pretty clearly, and the people standing in front of the portal pretty clearly too. So that's a good thing. That's a good read of the image. Later on the composition, I will do other things, but the image already looks pretty good straight out of the render. So that's something that you have to kind of keep in mind. You want to work as less as possible later, so the most solved image you can have right now, the better. Right now I was fixing some of the detail on the cannons of the Mech that look pretty cheap, and then I put a tessellate modifier which makes more geometry instantly, and they look way better now. And don't be afraid to test other shots, like putting the image in different, putting the camera in different positions. That also gives you a lot of ideas. At the end, I know there was a reason why the render was taking so long, and I discovered that one of the reasons was that the object of the portal was projecting, even though it's self is a meeting light, it was kind of projecting also shadows. So the light that I have in the back of the portal was actually projecting into the portal material, and then casting some shadows on everything else. And I was like, of course it's going to take like a lot of time to render. There's a very complex kind of lighting situation going on there. When I change that, things move more smoothly. And now we have it in Photoshop finally, and now it's time to just get some render pass like material ID. Right now I'm erasing stuff that catches too much attention. That I don't want that. I don't want those things there like catch too much attention. And yeah, let's do some VFX and stuff. Right now the first thing that I can think of is adding lens flares, but actually I want to add some particles, maybe like this is the image that I use for the portal. I repeat that again. And also like some kind of stars. I needed stars, but because I want to cut these guys very easy, I use a material ID. I did have to change the material on the guys and the mech to have them differently. And you can see that just selecting the colors, I can just click the other image and copy paste the guys really easy. It's way more easy to do it this way instead of by hand. Of course, by hand you can actually, you know, spend minutes in that, and this took me just seconds to do. And having those things separated makes things so much easier. way easier. That's something that I love about 3D too. So yeah, here I'm adding some stars to make them look like particles coming out of the portal. That's very cool, using obviously some kind of blending mode that allows that to erase the black from the images and just keep the white. And now I'm using a really weird lens flare that I'm gonna change the color to something more bluish or purple, just to get the same vibe of the rest of the image. But I'm going to put them on top of the guys, on top of the soldiers, so they look kind of like they were being affected by this light condition here. And that is pretty much it basically. Now I will do a little other things, but right now, like how it is right now, it's basically done. Now I'm adding a little bit of grain on the top of everything, because I wanted to look a little bit more cinematic, and also that can help you hide some mistakes here and there. Not that it has too many, but it does help you hide a couple of things. And this is something that I'm making that for some reason it got stuck with me when I saw Raphael Lacoste doing it, which is making the whole image darker and then erasing where you want the focus of the image, or like the focus of the people when looking at the image. And it looks pretty cool. And now why not adding some dust on it, because there's a lot of wind coming out of it, I guess, particles and stuff. So having something like dust will really help to sell the image even further. I don't want it to look too noisy though. Like, it has a lot of stuff already. If you put way too much stuff, then it starts to look like crowded and like a lot of detail for no reason, which is something that is bad too. And at the end I use this kind of like effect, which makes everything look like it had an edge. It's called posterize on Photoshop, and it's pretty cool. But this is basically it, guys. The image is almost done. I added some kind of like lighting on the backpacks of the guys because I needed to make them look a little bit more sci-fi. And yeah, that was something. That's like the most overpainted you wanna see here. just adding those likes on the guys. But yeah, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this process, and this is it, guys. I really hope you like this video. Please check out the other videos on my channel. If you have any question, don't doubt to write on Instagram or Twitter. And yeah, see you on the next one.